Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Autocar Professional Dialogue. Today we are in conversation with Mr. Sajan Murali of Turtle Wax India. Mr. Murali, thank you very much for sparing up the time and speaking with us.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Mr. Murali, I want to understand from you, you entered the Indian market with the Turtle Wax brand in the thick of the pandemic in around June of 2020. So how has the business evolved since entering the Indian market?
Thankfully, business has evolved well. That, during the pandemic, other than the lockdown periods where business didn't happen, post the lockdowns or when the lockdown started getting, lifted in a series, things have started to come back to normal. We've had our share of success in the e-commerce business too, when things were not completely normal in the traditional retail front. So I think, if you ask me, we're pretty happy and satisfied with the progress we've made. And we're excited for the future, what it holds for us in this market. So it's been pretty good, thankfully. Yeah.
So you mentioned that, you've had your fair share of sales through the e-commerce channels. I think that is especially true, since you entered during the pandemic when everything was shut and, people weren't going out to, physically themselves. So if you can give us an idea about how much percentage of the business right now is coming from online and how much is coming from the offline channel?
Currently, since now, it will be a good benchmark now that both the businesses are open fully. Currently, e-commerce contributes to about 20 to 25% of our overall business. During the pandemic, of course, the percentage was very high during the lockdown, etc. But when the traditional retail opened up, it started contributing too. While both of them are growing, but the contribution is now at about 20 to 25%, the e-commerce contribution to the overall business.
Okay. And what about the retail presence in physical terms? So how many outlets, how many, distributors do you have? And where exactly is Turtle Wax products, where exactly are these products available in the country?
So in the traditional retail, we are present across the country. We right from Trivandrum to Guwahati, we have distributors. So though there are some markets we don't have presence, but that's far and few. Otherwise, it's broadly covered. The outlets where we will be available largely are the accessory outlets, the car accessory outlets. We would have covered at least about 40 to 50% of the universe in the car accessory outlets. And then we are also available in some of the modern trade. We are in Reliance now, the Reliance Smart Stores. We have tied up with them, and we are in about 25 of their stores now. But we are steadily growing in more counters, more smart stores in Reliance. So that's one big piece which has happened in the last 2-3 months that resumed our business with Reliance. And we are also present in many of the other regular channels like lubricant outlets, wherever the car care products can be sold, or like paint outlets. Some of the compounds, polishing compounds, get sold in the paint outlets, paint refinish outlets. And we are also present in some of the hypermarkets, the mom and pop supermarkets which are there and which has the potential to sell car care. So pretty much these are the outlets where we are present through the traditional retail channel.
Okay, and you mentioned that there are still some cities, some pockets where you're still not entered in those areas. So which exactly are these areas, and are you also looking to enter the tier 2s and the tier 3s of the market? Do you see a demand in that area as well?
Yeah, so tier 2 and tier 3 markets, we are entering. Some of the states, probably state of Bihar, we currently don't have a distributor. Just give me an example. But rest of it, we are not going by tier 2, tier 3, because we're kind of making ourselves present in each of the towns which we think has a potential until tier 3. So both tier 2, tier 3 has started contributing to our business enormous. In fact, some of those tier 2 cities are contributing more than the tier 1 city. So it's a very different dynamic we are seeing. The other point which I wanted to also tell is we are also present in the detailing outlets, though it's not typically retail. That is a big piece where we are growing in the traditional retail outlet, right? So that's also another big channel in the within the traditional retail business that gets supplied through the distributors. That's also big because that's a consumption, right? They use it for their own usage, or they apply it on the cars which come to their showroom. So that's also a big business which is growing for us.
Okay, so it's very interesting, Mr. Murali. You mentioned that some of the tier twos are giving you more revenue compared to some of the metros, if I may say so. So which are these areas? Which are these cities? Can you name a few of them?
Yeah, so one thing is Kerala, for example, is one of our strongest markets. Kerala does not have a tier one city. In fact, Kerala is a state, if we could say it's one city, right? So that's the way it is.
Right.
So Kerala, cities in Punjab, Ludhiana is one of our biggest markets.
Okay.
Right. Hubli in Karnataka is one of our biggest markets. These are all tier 2 or tier 3 towns.
Right.
And all of these markets are doing really well. For us, Surat is one of another big market, but that's not a tier 1 or not even a tier 2 city.
Right.
So we are clearly seeing these, green shoots in these tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities. Probably, I'm also trying to guess that there are a lot of time people have in these cities at their disposal, and that's where they're able to use a lot of DIY products and really carefully apply it on their cars, and they take care of their cars probably much more carefully than a tier 1 city where things are a little fast. Right. So I'm trying to guess that could be the reason.
I think you're right. That could be the reason, because people in Delhi, Mumbai, they don't have the time to spend, on their cars. But within tier 2s also, do you think there's still this trend of people are still affluent people are the ones who are still going to use your products, not just anyone in the market who has a car and who's going to just opt for a throttle wax. It's still going to be someone who is very passionate about his vehicle, and he's very a little in terms of the demographic, it's an affluent population which is coming to your products.
So it's a little dichotomy. Affluent and passionate car owners are two different people, I strongly feel. Okay. That because we have bikers who are very passionate about their bikes, right? They need not be having a big car, so they might not be in the topmost bracket in terms of an income bracket, so to say. So I think automotive enthusiasm is about. Automotive enthusiasts are people who basically have it in their DNA, irrespective of which kind of income bracket do they belong to. Right. So, and thankfully for us, the advantage is we have products ranging from a starting range to a very high, premium range. Right. So people probably using our premium range of products could be people who can afford it. So in that sense, they could be on the income bracket, as you rightly said, could be an affluent kind of people. But a lot of other products which are very affordable are being used and passionately being applied by a lot of normal car care or maybe bike enthusiasts. So that's the way I would want to see it. That I think it's a spectrum of people who uses it. But yes, people who love their vehicles, whether it is bike or cars, those are the people largely using our products now. And thankfully those are now becoming our brand ambassadors. So they talk about us more than we do about us. And that's probably the journey which we want to adopt, getting into a bigger chunk of population, which is the mass population in the country. Right. And that's a journey we would want to embark on.
So in that sense, Mr. Murali, what has been the growth so far, since you entered the Indian market in 2020 till now? What has been, in CAGR terms, what growth have you registered so far?
So for a startup, as CAGR is not something which, I don't probably would want to say CAGR. We kind of, we doubled our business last year to the previous year. We are, our this year plan is to at least do 3x of what we sold last year. That is a plan. So that's the way we are going to look at till we reach a certain level where these growth numbers, these percentage numbers, and the market share and the industry growth starts making some sense. But for a startup and for a brand like Turtle Wax who's entering new to a country, I think it is about opportunities, just latching on the opportunities available and growing the business in different folds. So that's the way we are looking at. We kind of doubled last year. This year, our top line plan is doing 3x of last year.
Can you share those top line numbers?
I will not be able to share because, as you know, we're not a listed company. We're a family-owned company in the US. So we don't have a public forum. We share our numbers.
Okay. So you mentioned that, you still would want to grow. I mean, these are very early stages, for a company which is only 2 years old in India. So going forward, what sort of capex have you planned, and where exactly will the focus of the company lie if you talk about, this year and the next year particularly?
Yeah, so the way we are looking at is, one, of course, we now have products which we import from the US largely and the UK. And we have started repacking some of those products in India to suit the Indian consumers' demand in terms of the pack size. So we have a 250 ml shampoo, we have a 100 gram polishing compound. So those are being repacked in India. We would continue to explore these opportunities in India and repack some of those products in India. That's our first goal. And eventually, when we start seeing opportunity to fully manufacture in India, that's the end-to-end manufacturing options, we would start venturing into that as well. But currently, our priority is largely towards repacking to smaller packs to suit the Indian consumers' needs. So that's the way we're looking at. In terms of numbers, as I said, I may not be able to share the exact numbers of investment, since we are a closed family-owned company, but this is our plan. We would definitely want to expand our current repackaging business. We have repackaging kind of unit we have. It's not our unit, it's a third-party refilling which is happening now. We would want to expand that now and eventually get into manufacturing products here in India.
Okay. So which are these products that are getting repackaged in India? If you can share some more details, where exactly is this facility located, and what percentage of your products are currently being repackaged in India?
It is in Bangalore, and less than probably 5% is being repacked in India now. 95% is still imported. It is just that, and it is being there's a shampoo and one compound we are repacking, importing it in the bulk container and getting repacked in India. So technically it's an out and out US product, right, but it's just that we are repacking to a smaller container to suit the Indian consumers' requirement of having to. They buy in smaller quantities.
Okay.
So that's why we currently have it. But eventually, as and when we start seeing opportunities in getting into smaller pack segments, we will explore and start getting into that as well.
And what about the plans you mentioned? You would also want to look at end-to-end manufacturing within India. So how far is that still? We are in 2022 now. So how far is that from here? And what all products you would want to localize in the country?
So we haven't, we have not reached a stage where I can share that full data yet, because it's the project which we are running now. So what product and how these things are work in progress. But as I said, we've not even looked at a timeline, so to say. It could be early than planned, but it purely depends on how our supply chain is shaping up in the US and the UK. Right, 2021 beginning, we had a lot issues, as you know, supply chain constraints across the globe. Now it's eased up; it is better. So our products are inventory situation is much better than what it was before. So in that sense, we are fairly covered in terms of our product requirement for the current year. So it all depends on how things progresses, how the dynamics changes globally is what we would want to make that call, and also the top line growth we are seeing for the next couple of years. We would definitely evaluate all of that while we kind of finish the current project we are trying to do to understand what is the potential. Can we serve the rest of the India, other regions through this India business? So all of that we are trying to evaluate and see how we can make a good business sense with this project in India.
Okay, so in that case, if you're looking to serve other countries from India, so wouldn't you want to create a supply base within India itself?
So I'm saying these are not concrete plans. These are different options we are trying to explore. So nothing is finalized as of now, but we're trying to explore what are the other options, because other than the US and the UK, India is the third subsidiary of Turtle Wax across the globe. Rest we operate through distributors. So we're trying to see how best we can capitalize on the subsidiary and the investment being made in India. But as I said, nothing concrete as yet, but these are the options we're trying to explore as a business.
Right. And if you look at markets which you would be able to serve from India, so have you identified any of these markets? Which market is the potential?
It could be. I mean, definitely it is. It could be in and around India, which are the countries which are around. But we have not got into a concrete plan that I can share you which are those countries we have thought of.
Right. And Mr. Murali, you mentioned that start of 2021, and over the entire of 2020, the entire 2021 and the start of 2022 now, the supply chain has been really in a very bad shape. So did it affect you, and in what sense? And also, did it also increase the prices of your products, because the logistics costs have gone up, the raw material costs have gone up? So have you also increased the prices of your products in India?
Yeah, so as I said, the supply chain last year has been very erratic. The biggest challenge all of us faced across the globe, as as the pandemic came and the second wave came in India, for example. When the wave comes, people take a very cautious approach. And when the wave recedes, then suddenly demand starts popping up. And then the supply chain is not able to gear up to that demand, which comes all of a sudden, right? It's a cycle when it comes to supply chain. It's not just a stop and start scenario. So same thing happened with us. We tried to slow it down during the second wave because we didn't know how it was going. And then the moment wave receded, demand started coming in and we didn't have supplies. So we started, of course, losing sale. And eventually over the end of last year, all the raw material products started going up. There was a huge silicon shortage across the world. The factories were not able to supply to the silicon demand which was coming across the world, and prices started going up. So we have also taken price increases in India, but not that we have heavily, there's something which we've really passed on to the consumer fully. We've taken nominal price increase to make sure, our business model stays healthy, but we've not taken substantial price increases, so to say.
Can you quantify that in percentage? How much would be the average percentage hike?
Yeah, roughly about 8 to 10% is what we've taken up prices.
Across the range?
Yeah, across the range, yeah.
Okay. And Mr. Murali, coming to your other area, which is this car care studios, the physical infrastructure which you're building. So, and you're working in a very unique way. You're in a co-branded approach with all these retailers which are already existing in the market. So where have you reached there? How many outlets are there now in the entire country, and what is the growth plan for that particular segment?
So now we've opened 2 stores this month. So we are, and then there are some outlets work in progress. So we would have roughly about 13 to 14 stores by end of March. Right, and we are looking at about 30 stores by end of the year, 30 to 35 stores. So depending on how things progress, but that's what we are looking at. How has that been progressed? All the outlets thankfully have started picking up and they're doing well. The Gurgaon store, Pune, Mumbai, Cochin, all of them have started really doing well. And that is what is encouraging us to start getting into more cities, which is what we're trying to do now, and opening up new studios. The inquiry levels have gone up. We have a lot of existing retailers who's calling us and requesting us to partner with them. So all that side is very encouraging. Our portfolio is more complete now, as in from a detailing perspective. We've introduced a lot of products which kind of fills up our basket. It's a much more attractive basket when it comes to detailing products. We're doing all of that to ensure that this is a sustainable business we are building, and our products pricing is pretty competitive. We're very transparent in our way we approach the car care studios. So So that is making us stay and grow. Both of it is important.
Right.
Not about getting into new outlets. We also need to make sure that existing outlets are happy with us and they're growing with us. So
right.
Thankfully, both of it is happening parallelly.
Right. So from a customer point of view, Mr. Murali, so how are you able to make the customer, approach TurtleWax or, make his decision to go ahead with, getting his vehicle detailed from TurtleWax? Because, the market is right now flooded with all sort of products. Some companies claiming some, in terms of the ceramic coatings, there is 9H hardness, there is whatnot is going on. So in terms of awareness and also in terms of the brand credibility, so do you think you've kind of built that in the Indian market right now?
So we are in the process of building. I mean, it's no brand is built overnight. But the good thing is there are not too many companies which can talk about a tradition like we have. We are a 75-year-old brand. We're a household brand in the US. So that gives us an advantage versus many of the companies which could be new globally or they're relatively newer names. So in that sense, it gives an advantage to the brand. But we are also relying on social media. We're relying on a lot of utilizing, or in fact, building a good social media platform to tell our consumers or enthusiasts to know that we are here. These are products which are available. So our handles, TurtleWax India handle, our TurtleWax Global Instagram handles are doing a lot of work to make sure the consumers are aware of it. And then there's a lot of word of mouth also which gets publicized. We are definitely on a lot of social media, automotive platforms where we try to make consumer aware of our brand and the product. Like we did a modern classic rally with Autocar last year, and it was it definitely gave our brand a good shot on our shoulder. So
right. And in terms of the new markets that you're trying to enter with these car care studios, so can you give some of these markets where you will be entering in this year?
Yeah, so we'll as I said, we definitely have covered our metros now. Mm-hmm. We would have probably a second outlet or a third outlet in these metros going forward. We are also getting into the tier 2 cities, as I said, where we are strong, like Chandigarh. We are opening up in Surat. We're looking at Cochin. We're already there. We're looking at Coimbatore. We are looking at Salem. We already have one in Salem. We're looking at Karur. I'm just giving examples like that, right. Where we would want to. We've opened one in Delhi. Now we have already one in Gurgaon. So we're trying to expand with more footprints in the tier 1 cities and enter into the tier 2 cities with our first store. So that's the way we are trying to balance it out. Right. We're looking at Hubli as a city. So all of these cities are being looked at. Hyderabad, we have one we're having another one in Vijayawada. All of that. Right. So.
And is there also going to be a B2B side to this business? I mean, are you trying to tie up with some of these hotel chains or and all, maybe other things? Are you evaluating those prospects as well?
The B2B currently is what we are working on is with the OEMs. Okay. Basically to supply them the products. Many of the OEMs, as have their own brands. So being a supplier to them, we're talking to them, and that could be one big enabler going forward for next year. OEM tie-ups and business approvals take a while. Right. But we are working diligently on it, and we're trying to make sure that we have a good business case in the OEM and the OEM aftermarket as well. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a business we want to set up for future.
So which are these companies that could come on board with TurtleWax?
No, come on board is until the approval is made. I will not be able to comment about the companies. Right. Whom are we approaching? We definitely are approaching all the leading car companies, automotive companies, right, from an MSIL to Mahindra's, and all of these companies. We're talking to them, but nothing concrete has come out yet, as in to share that we have an approval in place. But we're also talking to luxury car companies and see if we can pitch our premium range there. where there's
Right.
not too much of competition around. So,
Hmm.
so we are trying to do a mix of both,
Okay.
the volume car companies and the premium car companies.
Okay. But in that case, Mr. Murali, you'll also need to, give your manpower, not just the products. So how are you going to manage that area then?
Yeah. So once we have an idea of how things get into it, we'll definitely have to build an ecosystem around it, which we're
Mhm.
confident that we can build, because we now has a focus OEM resource who's managing that business for us,
Right.
and he has experience in building that ecosystem. I'm sure he will build that ecosystem around when need arises.
Okay. And one more thing about these car care studios, so there's this co-branded approach. So how is it going on for you and for your partners, whoever you've tied up with? So is this working well?
I think it is working well so far. From a future point of view, I don't know, because I think this is a model which is very independent in the approach, right? It's if it works well for both companies. So the way we work is we are there to provide. We are there to give them a brand identity. We are making sure we want to make sure they get the right training. But as a detailer, they've been there in that market for some time, so they retain their local identity, because there's a lot of local factors, as you're aware, which drives business. There's a trust which they've built over a year. So we do not want to just squander that away, and the brand takes it over completely. So we want to make sure they retain their local flavor, but they kind of get the entire support from a brand like us. So I mean, philosophically, I feel the concept is
Right.
good, right?
Mhm.
On ground, so far, it's worked well.
Mhm.
Now, I said, I don't see a reason why it should not work in the future. But what is important is, we get the right people on board who has
Mhm.
the same kind of vibe and wavelength. That is
Right.
important. The choice of the partner is crucial to make this successful. So far, we've been lucky that we've got good partners and things have been progressing very well.
Last question, Mr. Murali. So, how have you seen, the evolution of the consumer in India? People, do you think they are now more comfortable with the DIY approach, and more of them are opting for these products to do it, using it themselves? And so, what is the evolution trend that you've seen so far? I mean, you've spent like 2.5 years in the Indian market. So, what's your observation?
No, the DIY culture is definitely going up without a doubt. Largely because, as you know, people have shifted to better looking cars, high aesthetic cars, and they also realize that it is not just at one time you take care of your car. You'll have to continuously take care of your car, regularly, right? So they realize it over a period of time. So that realization has come, and how we are trying to make that statement is we get a lot of inquiries through our website that how to use an X product, how to use a Y product. They're relatively new. No, they're absolutely new people who have never done anything on their car, but they know they want to. I mean, they really has the intention to do it, and but they want to know more. So they write to us. They put inquiries on website. We try and address them. So we're clearly seeing interest levels going up from a consumer point of view, especially people who are now shifting slowly to the better looking cars, the colors of their choice, or they would want to retain the color, the shine. All of that very clearly seen. One trend. The other trend we are clearly seeing is the woman population really gearing up, because, as the woman drivers community is kind of increasing, and they would definitely want to keep their car, because they want to keep everything tidy. So I clearly see them being one of the biggest, growth segment, so
Right.
to say, in our area. So these are two insights we've picked up.
Really nice observations there, and I really wish that the tribe of these people, may the tribe of these people who really want to take care of their cars, their bikes, these enthusiasts, as we call them, may their number increase, so that
I so wish.
we see good cars on, I mean,
Yeah.
well maintained and well kept cars on the Indian roads. I mean, from a city-wise trend perspective, I think you rightly mentioned that the metros, people don't really have that kind of time, but in the tier twos, places like Hubli, like Kochi, and like
Yeah.
Ludhiana, Chandigarh, People really,
Yeah.
they take pains to maintain their vehicles.
Correct.
So wonderful. On that note, Mr. Murali, thank you very much for taking the time out and for chatting along with us. Thank you so much.
Pleasure is mine to mine. Thank you so much. You have a good day.